Call the meeting to order. Porter, please call the roll.
Counselor Solsky?
Here.
Counselor Savage?
Here.
Youth Representative? Counselor Fleck?
Here.
Counselor Stennett? Counselor Irvin?
Here.
Counselor Roberts? Here. Mayor Gowing?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there's no items to be added to the agenda. Brings us to appearances of interested citizens for items not on the agenda. This is a time for citizens to comment on items not listed on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. Individual speakers must be recognized by presiding officer, provide their name and address, and will be allowed up to 5 minutes or less with council approval. Comments regarding any matter scheduled for public hearing may be provided only in that hearing. Comments on agenda item may be taken prior to council discussion on that item. Council will not engage in any discussion or make any decision based on public comment at this time. However, the council may take the comments under advisement for discussion and action at a further council meeting. The first one I have is Karen Munsell.
P.O. Box 174, Cottage, Oregon. I'm disturbed. I'm here because I'm disturbed. I was going to speak of something else tonight. And I'm going to ask you to please take a look at Magnolia Gardens, because each of you holds the most powerful seat in leadership in our community. And there are claims of state reports being made by employees and past employees that are going unanswered. Ovens in disrepair, diabetic diets not being met, family members who cannot make contact with their parents for days, firings of several employees who refuse to lie to the state when the state does visit. Magnolia Gardens holds its reputation by the standards, the dates built into it. The current corporation, Mosaic, does not appear to be holding those standards according to conversations happening in our community. We seem to think all those seniors have family in this community to look in on them because that's what it used to be over there. So I'm asking that someone in leadership help take a look at this and help lead on something. I'm going to take a look at it. I finished this with I'll be looking into it, and without leadership involved, my efforts may not take me too far without taking this to social media in this community and every community to see how Mosaic operates other facilities. So, again, I really don't know what I'm asking you for, but you are the mayor. And I'm asking that someone in a leadership position help coordinate an effort to find out if the seniors in our community are being cared for. Seniors who have led this community. They've probably been in this building. I work every day real hard, so one of them does not end up at Magnolia Gardens. The conversation today was another community. How sad is that? That one of the people who have led this community and given everything and is alone could end up at Magnolia Gardens and could be one of the residents today. That there are many people on social media talking about this right now, not just a couple. And I don't know them personally, but I've read enough, I've seen enough. I've asked one of them who is a past employee to contact the ombudsman. I'm going to the community center where Senior and Disabled Services is. And I'm going to look into it. But I don't hold a leadership position in the community. And I'm asking that we find someone who does, so we can take a look, not just make phone calls, not just a quick visit over there, that we can take an honest look. We have seen what these corporations are doing in other communities in these facilities. And we are trusting right now that's what is happening is on the Dake's reputation and how long ago did they sell. So I will be back in email or here. I thank you. Annie Odine calls this my justice phone being triggered. That's just her thing. I call it being unable to look away. When I have a sense and a feel, and I'm hearing and I'm reading from members of our own community that something is wrong, I cannot look away, and I'm asking for someone's help. Thank you.
Thank you. Venice Mason.
My name is Venice Mason, and I live downtown in the old City Hall building. I wanted to speak today about an item that's not on the agenda, but scheduled for a special session next week. I'm aware that you will be voting on the homeless shelter that has been proposed on Highway 99, and that is our only option presently because grant writing did not happen for the previously discussed alternative, which was the church. I would like to speak strongly in favor of doing something. I understand and have listened to this entire process, and I realize that the community is not 100% pleased with the 99 site. Neither am I. Everything has shortcomings. But to be able to do something, at least temporarily, especially in the face of the fact that the warming shelter has no viable options for operating this year, we're looking at a sense of urgency. If the Highway 99 site, which so much planning, development, and best practices research is put into place, at least temporarily, that gives the city time to write grants in order to fund a more permanent solution that is more pleasing to everybody in the community. I don't envy your jobs. Everyone has put an incredible amount of thought into this, but a no vote next week means we are doing nothing. And that means that maybe Devin, maybe Tristan, maybe my friend Anna, maybe other people are going to be dying this year here in our streets. We've heard a lot about Cottage Grove being a unique community that can provide unique solutions, but we can't let our homeless population die of terminal uniqueness. There are best practices. A huge amount of research and effort has been put into this. If you do nothing, we will be stuck with the situation we have in the parks. We will be stuck with everybody scrambling, looking for an annual solution, which has no chance of succeeding. We need to do something. We're out ahead of the curve. We are doing better than what we are required to by state. We need to put the Highway 99 shelter into use, have it be this year's temporary warming shelter site as well. And then you're going to have compound use. You're going to have no duplication of services. You're going to have good people surviving a winter where things are getting more and more expensive and more difficult for everybody. Taking a look at the comprehensive plan that has been developed, that has been gone over, that has been given committee review, that has been given public town halls, that has been voted yes on, then rescinded the vote, then given work sessions on, and now is being put to a final vote, this is the last opportunity to speak. I don't just represent myself. I represent our Cottage Grove, which is organized, united, and responsible. And there is a huge group of citizens in this community that 100% back the 99 site, knowing it's not ideal. We are in an emergency situation. We didn't argue about the best way to pick up the trees during Snowmageddon. We picked up the trees, and then we came up with a plan that let us handle the next disaster a little bit better and a little more seamlessly. To do nothing is unconscionable in this community. We are known as a community that is unique and has solutions that are created for here. We need to put these solutions in place, and we need to do so immediately. I speak for victims of human trafficking who live in our community. I speak for battered women who live in our community. I speak for people without shelter. I speak for families who are doubled up on couches with no health care and no prospects for dealing with this realistically in real time here in our community. So we can be known as the community that did nothing, let our parks go to pot, and continued having huge public outcry, or we can be known as the community that did the best they could with what they had immediately while planning and preparing for a better future plan. If you cannot get behind it wholeheartedly, get behind it temporarily. These folks need places to sleep. It's a matter of survival. Doing something in the right direction is the right thing to do. The Highway 99 site is the only viable alternative for our city. I propose to you that you vote yes next week and that you make provisions in order to plan for a better solution that is more well appreciated by everybody. This isn't about my program. This isn't about my preferences. This is about people like me who are assets to the community dying before they ever have a chance to realize that maybe they belong here, like me. Thank you for your time.
Okay, item 5 is public hearings. There is none. Item 6, consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. Have a motion with the second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 7, resolution ordinances. Resolution establishing the freight loading zone for South 17th Street. Mr. Mongan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. City staff received a request from JDL Construction on behalf of McCoy's Pharmacy to create a loading zone on South 17th Street adjacent to the new McCoy's Pharmacy located at 1645 East Main Street. Per section 10.04.030 of the Cottage Grove Municipal Code, Council has the authority to alter parking areas and time limitations, as well as the establishment of loading zones and stops for vehicles. A freight loading parking space in this right-of-way would accommodate the daily commercial deliveries to McCoy's Pharmacy and be in compliance with MUTCD traffic standards for the specific location. Council is being asked to consider the establishment of a new freight loading zone at the following location: South 17th Street, adjacent to McCoy's Pharmacy, located at 1645 East Main Street. Recommendation is that Council consider the attached draft resolution establishing the loading zone on South 17th Street, adjacent to McCoy's Pharmacy, located at 1645 East Main Street, and staff is recommending approval.
Do you have a resolution number?
2078.
And we have Mike here from McCoy's if you guys have questions for Mike. Councilor Urban?
I move that resolution 2078 be adopted.
Second.
Got a motion with a second. Is there any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Savage?
Aye.
Counselor Fleck?
Aye.
Counselor Irvin?
Aye.
Counselor Roberts?
Aye.
Counselor Solsby?
Aye.
Mayor Gowing?
Aye. Okay, resolution 2078 passes. Brings us to item 8, business from the City Council. A is Lane County Parks proposal for local option levy presentation. Mr. Myers.
Good evening. We have Brett Henry, the Lane County Parks Division Manager, on with us on the meeting tonight, and he is going to provide a little presentation regarding the proposed funding measure that Lane County will be considering tomorrow. The Lane County Board of Commissioners will be considering for funding Lane County Parks. So, without further, Brett Henry. You're muted, Brett.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Well, I want to thank the Cottage Grove City Council for inviting me here today to present on the proposed local option levy for Lane County Parks. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. Hopefully we can figure out the technological challenges, and I will be also here for a bit if you guys have any questions here at the end of my presentation. Okay, so I'll start by providing a summary of the proposed parks option levy. The funding proposal is a 5-year local option levy at 16 cents per 1,000 assessed property value. If it's approved by the Board of County Commissioners, then the levy would generate $31 million in total if it was voted in. And it would cost the median Lane County homeowner approximately $38 a year or $3.17 a month. The categories of investment are park improvements to facilities. We have park operations, which includes funding for maintenance and employees, conservation and education projects, and special projects that facilitate increased collaboration. So taking a look at the timeline of process, on December 18th of 2018, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the Lane County Parks and Open Space Master Plan. And then on July 9th of 2019, the board assigned the county administrator to create a 11-member parks funding task force. And this is, they were assigned to research and recommend sustainable funding strategies to the board. So despite COVID interruption in 2020, the funding task force met a total of 10 times over a period of 17 months. And on October 9th of last year, Parks presented the task force preferred recommendation. The preferred recommendation was a funding plan that consisted of a 5-year, $6 million local option levy and an additional $500,000 a year in general fund. At the Parks Board meeting in June, Parks presented the public polling results. And then the polling showed that 61% supported the 5-year levy at the 16 cents per 1,000 assessed value. So the board then directed Parks to continue to pursue plans towards moving forward with the local option levy. So there were a total of 4 regional meetings that were held May of this year. And to better understand what park investments were important for each region, we held them at Florence there in the West region, Eugene for the Eugene-Springfield metro area, Leesburg for the McKenzie River corridor, and Cottage Grove for South Lane County. Input from the public was collected and then it was incorporated in the special projects category of the proposed levy. The general feedback we received told us to focus on investments that actually looked at accessibility improvements, sorry about that, new recreation opportunities, conservation, also looking at educational programming and improving water access at our existing facilities. So this map, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's a map of the county and it shows where our parks are located by the green dots. And so in the south part of the county, we have parks and covered bridges. So we have Baker Bay Park, Big River, Blue Mountain, Bohemia Saddle, which is way down to the south, and 3 covered bridges, Kerr and Drina, LaSalle Stewart, or I'm sorry, Stewart Covered Bridge, LaSalle Stewart Park, Vaughn, and Wildwood Falls. So at the meeting, 3 questions were asked. Which recreational features are most desirable? What enhancements improve accessibility? And what educational elements will enhance the visitor experience? So at the Cottage Grove public meeting, 4 main themes became apparent. Covered bridges. So they obviously are in dire need of repairs. So some ideas were brought forward for partnership with the city of Cottage Grove, as well as looking at several heritage organizations in the area. Baker Bay Park is in disrepair. The infrastructure is 40 to 50 years old, and there's certainly a need for investments at that site in both the campground and the day use area. They also wondered if we had some plans for Blue Mountain Park. It's been left basically as a natural area with very little activity. So there were some ideas for enhancing the wildlife viewing through the viewing platforms. Educational programming was also discussed, so partnering with local schools is a possibility. Also, they wondered if county parks could assist with the maintenance of the Row River Trail, since it's located near several county parks there in the region. So what is in the proposed levy? We first looked at some waterway access projects. And so these projects consist of making our boat ramps more accessible, both motorized and non-motorized, providing that information like trail maps, signs and guides, boat docks, and facilities like restrooms and lockers. And so we're looking at some Marine Board, Oregon State Marine Board grant opportunities where we would provide a 25% match. So 11 locations were chosen throughout the county, and Baker Bay made the cut. So you see the star there, just to the east of Cottage Grove and north where it says South Valley, that's Baker Bay. So we're looking at replacing the ramp, the boarding docks there, and regrading the parking lot, removing the marina slips, possibly might keep them. We need to do a study on that, but also looking at the broadside, like a broadside tie-up dock, and improving the non-motorized access there. There's no ADA accessibility, and there's a user conflict there where there needs to be a separation there and water entry for both the motorized activity and the non-motorized. So looking broader at the Cottage Grove region, some projects were decided upon. And looking at the covered bridges, we feel like we can partner with the city. There are some heritage grants offered by Oregon Parks and Recreation Department and state parks. We believe that we have some match there in that proposed levy. We want to look at the feasibility of a covered bridge bike trail. That's been pitched a couple times, and we have a Trail Connections master plan where we can assess the feasibility of that. Baker Bay Park, we want to improve it, and it's going to take a lot of funding. So we were able to get some money through it's called ARPA, or American Recovery Plan Act, and we also have some levy funds set aside for improving both the day use in the campground area and the marina docks. Blue Mountain Park, we want to improve the use of that site, and so we're looking at an outdoor classroom where we could have some planned field trips and day camps. And we have funding in the levy package for an education coordinator. And so that person could work with the local watershed council there and offer some educational programming for school-age kids. And lastly, looking at the Row River Trail, we of course do not own it. It's owned by the Bureau of Land Management, and really it needs more maintenance and more attention. And so by partnering with them, possibly the city of Cottage Grove and a Corps of Engineers who also have properties there in the region, I think we could work on some maintenance agreements. And again, with the Trail Connections master plan, also for some connections with our local parks there in the area. So specifically, getting back to Baker Bay, the following investments are planned for the park. We have some American Recovery Plan Act funds, also that can be used, as I said earlier, for Marine Board facility grant to improve the waterway access. We do have designated funds there for facility investments and site security. And so something that we've really heard lately is the need for more security in our parks. And so we would be partnering with the Sheriff's Office to hire a full-time deputy patrol that would make rounds at the valley parks and would assist there. So looking at next steps, tomorrow is the official public hearing for the proposed levy, and that's at 1:30 here in Eugene. And at that time is when we will request to see if the Board of County Commissioners will place the board order for the local option levy on the November ballot for this year. If that goes through, then the explanatory committee has to write an explanatory statement. So they will be working on that during the month of August. And on the 19th is the deadline to file with the county elections office. And of course, on November 8th is the general election. And the picture you see there is at Bigger Bay, somebody there at a tent site right there on Dorena Lake. All right, so I'm here for any questions that you guys may have. And once again, thank you for allowing me to present.
Councilor Irvin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for presenting this, Mr. Harvey. I'm unclear what the Blue Mountain site is. That the cliff specifically, or is it down further? Where is the Blue Mountain site?
Yeah, so the Blue Mountain site is south of Cottage Grove. It's essentially about 250 acres. Exact road that it's off of, I could tell you real quick here. I got my map book.
Blue Mountain School. Okay, that's enough.
Right off of, it's right off of Mountain. Let's see.
That satisfies that question.
Blue Mountain School Road and Mosby Creek Road, like kind of where they intersect, just to the south there. Again, south, a little south and east of Cottage Grove. So yeah, that's a park that we're really just keeping as a natural area. There's not a lot of attention there, and that's good in some ways, obviously because the wildlife in the trees aren't really impacted much. But we do get some activity out there that's unwanted at times. We had a caretaker out there as well. It's just one of those sites that's pretty far away, but having more employees will give us the ability to manage it more effectively and work with the local schools. Like the Kennedy schools there, just across the way, and there's a potential to partner with them and the watershed councils.
And the second part of that question was the defining the boundaries of the Bohemia Saddle. Does that include the structures up there for camping and or that cabin? Because I've never seen the distinguishing marks that really just say this is where county is, or county park.
Yeah, and that's one of those that's pretty remote. There actually, or there used to be a sign there, but just to get there, it's basically you're taking some pretty sketchy roads, gravel roads and so forth. And it's closed for part of the year. It's up at higher elevation, so it's a difficult one to get to. But they have the Bohemia Mining Days each year, which is a real popular event out there. But yeah, it's all the way off the map that I showed you earlier, so it's pretty far south there.
Councilor Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Harvey, is there any talk of putting a host back out at Blue Mountain? Over the years, back when I did park maintenance for the Army Corps of Engineers for 10 years. I filled in for Lane County one year when there were some strike problems. The amount of vandalism way out of Blue Mountain School area was really high. And so is there any talk of putting a host back out there?
There actually is a host out there now, but we're still having issues with vandalism. It's such a large park, very remote, and there's a lot of ways where off-road vehicles can get in. So this is one of those we need to give more attention. And so, we've identified that, and with the staffing improvements, we believe we can. And that includes, just more sight and oversight out there, because if we're not out there very often, you're going to see a lot more of that unwanted activity.
Because that's the question I have. Spending a lot of money and not be able to watch over it this day and age sort of bothers me.
Yeah, well, we're not going to.
Even back when I was going out there, I saw a bunch of wooden picnic tables that had been stacked up and set on fire. So
right.
That's just one of my concerns.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Brings us to item B, Urban Forest Management Plan Advisory Committee appointment. Mr. Mongan.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. per subsection 2.30.040 of the Cottage Grove Municipal Code, it is the duty of the Urban Forestry Committee to assist with the development and implementation of an urban forestry management plan. At this time, the city does not have an adopted urban forest management plan, and the Urban Forestry Committee is seeking volunteers to sit on an advisory committee that will support staff in the development of an urban forest management plan. The advisory committee, hopefully comprised of representatives from the City Council, Planning Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, and the Urban Forestry Committee, will help guide this planning process with assistance from staff. The advisory committee meetings will begin in late August or early September of this year and should be concluded by May of 2023. There is a draft scope of work for the plan attached to this memo for your consideration. In general, the Urban Forest Management Plan will be a tool for the future growth and maintenance of the city's urban forest. Once completed, the advisory committee draft of the Urban Forest Management Plan will be brought back to council for consideration and hopeful adoption. Staff is asking for 2 city councilors to volunteer to represent council on the Urban Forest Management Advisory Committee.
Councilor Irvin, you want it on there?
I'd be happy to serve on there.
Okay. I thought you implied that Friday. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What are the commitments?
Mayor.
I know we talked about it on Friday, but remind me.
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor Savage. So 1 meeting a month, essentially between now and next May. The other part of the Urban Forestry Committee's charter is that every May they're supposed to report to council on the state of the urban forest. I would like to have that be a component of that presentation. So that's kind of the goal. So looking at the calendar, was that 7, 8 meetings? The Urban Forestry Committee currently meets on the 3rd Monday of the month at 4 p.m. So it would be nice if the meetings could be adjacent, but they can't be the same thing. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. Of course, as always, we do our best to get schedules to all align. Hopefully there's going to be between 9 and 12 members on the advisory committee. So that's a couple schedules to coordinate. But that's why we're asking for 2 members of council in case somebody needs to be someplace else 1 or 2 times. There still maintains representation by this body.
Do you want on there?
Sure.
So, Councilor Irvin, Councilor Savage. All right, thank you. Concerns of council. Councilor Fleck.
So, Karen Munsel's comments about Magnolia Gardens are very concerning, and I'm not here to discount what she's saying, but I will say that my mother-in-law is in Magnolia Gardens, and I was there yesterday. I am not seeing what we heard at the podium, and I'm just trying to be impartial and saying that my mother-in-law's care has been good. I'm not there as often as my wife, of course, but I saw people visit her several times while we were there. So I would just caution folks about, statements without, the information to support it. I know other people from the community that I've seen in there, and I haven't heard things. I will attest that it is not the same as when, Carmen owned it. But this was a local person who was very committed to that organization. And so I think there's always going to be, when you have a group as opposed to one owner, some changes. But I would caution folks from, stating things unless there's, some evidence. So that's just my 2 cents worth on that.
Councilor Irvin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just reiterate the comments on Friday. There was some interest in learning more about the operations at the reservoir spillways and dams. So I would love to hear a presentation.
And I did talk to Christy Johnson, and she said I can give you her phone number, and she's willing to come here and do a presentation for us. She was at the party in the park on Saturday.
If I also had a Lane Economic Committee meeting, so I give a quick report on that today. We had Carrie Westland from the representing Travel Lane County and give a brief update on kind of the post World Athletic Championships. We gave some stats. The ones that stood out were primarily there was 147,000 tickets sold. We had 40 countries represented, every state represented. Conversation kind of surrounded how did it go, what were areas for improvement, and there's quite a bit of conversation around like how it affected Eugene businesses specifically. And so I haven't heard anything from the business community here if there's different expectations or what kind of the impact was. And we'd expect probably December or later before some of the information sources that were set up will report. But the only real hard number are transient room taxes is only going to be kind of definitive information that's not anecdotal. And I believe they have till the end of August to report their numbers. So that'll be our most significant metric. I think the hotels, a lot of the hotel numbers came in, and it was like 136% of business over last year for that same time period. But that's the only thing that's coming so far. And I think that's the only relevant stuff.
Thanks. Councilor Soulsby.
Thank you. I was notified today that Eugene PD made an arrest, and this was the message that I received. A guy was arrested for a string of burglaries, and this person was researching Candace, and then 4 other additional city councilors. And it says, please do have them check their expensive jewelry and guns just to make sure. This guy is a daytime burglar. So he was looking to break into homes, and he was researching city councilors in Cottage Grove.
Wow.
So my neighbor who lives in a house that I own that would be under my name got burglarized this week.
Mm-hmm. Just be aware.
So on the 15th, that was one of the things that was talked about here with Ms. Mason. What we need to do at the start of the meeting is decide if we're going to do anything or nothing, because to have the meeting, if we're just going to comply by the laws, is what we need to decide. I mean, if we're going to talk about directions to go and then we don't even want to go there, then kind of a waste of our hour. So let's keep it. So we do need to come to a consensus, though, that we're not doing public input on that night because we only have an hour and we need to get through it. So if we could get a motion on that, that would be good.
Can we do that with a caveat that if you do have public comment, please submit it in writing ahead of time? I don't want to shut the door on it, but I understand the need to.
Yeah, just not in person at here. So is that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, got a motion with a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the other thing I got is Ernie Olson has that's where Free Reign is. He's got the Bigfoot and whatever else down there. He contacted me the other day, and he's got a idea he wants to do between the sidewalk and the tennis courts with the Jurassic Park theme. And he wants to do, it's no funding to the city. He just needs city approval to do it. So he was asking me to bring it up at council if we could go in that direct, or look into allowing him to do that. So put a kind of the same type of thing that he's got at his place, but it's a Jurassic Park thing. And I don't know what.
And get a hold of Faye.
Yeah, how we would go through that, but if that's something we could look into and pursue.
Because we'll want to check the utilities and everything there. because there's a number of streetlight utilities and stuff in there.
Okay. All right, report from the city manager.
Our first part of the report, I want Eric to help with this a little bit. We had the emergency preparedness fair on Saturday. It was very well attended, and tonight we wanted to, rather than do the drawing of all the people who submitted cards and visited all the booths, we wanted to do the drawing tonight, have the mayor draw the names for, 13 raffle prizes? And there's a sample of what they are down here. We didn't bring the 6 different bags or the 5 different tubs and stuff like that. But you want to explain a little more about that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council again. As many of you know, City of Cottage Grove, the Cottage Grove Faith Center, Riverside Church, and South Valley Athletics hosted Party in the Park and the Emergency Preparedness Fair on Saturday. This annual event's been on pause for a couple years due to COVID, but came back as a great success in its 5th installment. The Party in the Park folks handed out over 500 school backpacks and more than 1,000 hot dogs and much more. For the Emergency Preparedness Fair, the city had over 20 vendors from local public and private agencies and organizations. And on behalf of the city, I would like to extend my thanks to all of those who participated in this amazing event that saw over 1,500 attendees, maybe closer to 2,000. The Emergency Preparedness Fair is a component of our natural hazard mitigation plan, and it's a contributing factor in our Class 6 rating in the community rating system program. The Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan and the CRS program are currently undergoing their 5-year scheduled review, with FEMA visiting next Thursday on the 18th to look at our efforts such as events like the Prep Fair and the Riparian newsletter. This year we're raffling off 13 grand prizes. For those who are able to visit every booth at the Prep Fair, they were able to get a ticket in the bucket here, and depending on how they landed on the prize wheel, even getting a second chance to get a ticket in the bucket. Raffle prizes include 10 of those 2-day go bags down there. Red, green camouflage, there's maybe one other color in my office still yet. A bag provided by EPUD as a donation, and then 2 of these larger family-sized kits that were made possible by a $500 donation from Northwest Natural. Now, I'd like to ask the mayor to help us pick the winners. 107 tickets in there, so odds pretty good.
Are we drawing the big one first or the smaller ones? And then
We'll do the small ones first, I think. Start with the EPUD and then work the other direction towards the last.
Too late to get an entry.
Too late.
Diane Patno.
Right over here at EPUD.
This is our old ballot box from the 1920s that used to be for city elections.
J.R. Fain.
J.R. Fain. We'll get a 2-day bag.
Siler Lewis. Carmen. Got a phone number, so. Carmen again.
Get that on double. Could be. Yeah. Six more 2-day bags.
Jason Cook.
September will be our emergency preparedness month, so we'll be doing some other activities during that again too.
Dylan. Phone number. Gina Trent. Amber Crump.
Two more on the 2-day bags.
Linda Johnson.
check my math. So these will be for the grand prize winners. 2 big hits. 1 each.
Sunny Squire. Neely Evans.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. That's it.
So, in addition to the fun of the fair, we've had the opportunity in Cottage Grove to have the Botswana team here during the World Championships, and you got to meet them at dinner. I actually got to take Tobago and the assistant coach. They came to our house and had barbecue. We had barbecued hamburgers, and they had never seen a blueberry bush, but they love blueberries, and they were impressed. They said, that's what it grows on, and they kept calling it a tree, but it's a small tree. And they were impressed when they walked through the yard and they found our fig tree loaded with figs. They knew what that was. But it was a lot of fun meeting with them and being a part of that celebration. And the reason that they came to my house is they came back to Cottage Grove after the championship. He was scheduled to fly out on, what morning was that? Thursday morning or Wednesday? Wednesday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. I took him to the airport. They left a couple days after everybody else, and he was going to Colombia for the under 20 World 22. If you haven't watched it on YouTube, you need to watch his races. His initial race, the first heat, he ran in and broke the world's record, set it 10 seconds. Then in the final heat, he was running, and he actually broke the record again at 9.91, while turning around and gesturing to the Jamaican runner who was kind of off to the side and behind him. If he'd have ducked down and put his head down and run to the finish line all the way running, he would have really set a record, but he set a record. Much in the format of Mr. Bolt. And he's going to he's the world champion now. Tobago is. So it was exciting having them here. They left us something, the city and the community. And so I mounted it on the board this weekend. They all signed the shirt from one of their team shirts and the times and everything on it. All the mementos and stuff. Hopefully here. Are you here? Yeah. So we'll have this available so that we can kind of remember that. One of the things that they mentioned at dinner when we were eating is the assistant coach was excited about Cottage Grove and was impressed about Cottage Grove so much that the Botswana Athletic Association is looking for a training place in the United States. And Cottage Grove is kind of on the top of the list. So they really enjoyed it here. Cottage Grove's on the top because they can get to Eugene and U of O's facility, but they really liked it here. While they were in the athletic village, some of the athletes were saying they wanted to go home to Cottage Grove. They did not like it in the village. So that's really exciting and fun. But we'll continue to see how they go and see what happens. I think the president of the association met you somewhere, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think at the hotel.
Right.
And then I took the assistant manager for a Harley ride. So.
Cool. So really exciting. Glad that they were able to come and enjoy it. From what we've heard from other communities, we're one of the only communities that did anything like this. The athletes and the coaches were very emotional about when they got to leave Cottage Grove, and we have the police cars and the ambulance and fire truck leading the way and people on the streets cheering for them. They didn't even get that in Botswana. And they were really, and when we were talking about stuff at dinner time, the one thing that Tobago liked the best was riding in the tube behind the boat, which we won't talk about at the lake, but they went to the lake one day. But one of the other things that was high on their list was having the community behind and being a part of the community. They just loved it. So we did a good job. Thank you, everyone, for helping and being a part of that. we showed them really a good time, and we anticipate seeing them back. I have to tell the story. While we were sitting there barbecuing the hamburgers, we were talking, and the assistant coach he mentioned something. He asked a question. I go, "What did you say?" And then he said something about cows, and I'm going, "What?" And then he said it again, and this time I pulled out the word dowry, because we'd been talking about my daughters and the youngest one getting married recently and stuff, and because we'd gone to the races with him, and he was asking where she was, and I said, "She's back at school." And so we talked about dowry, and I said, "Yeah, dowry, we don't do that in the United States." And he goes, "So if I was here and I wanted to marry your daughter, I just have to come ask?" And so, yeah, so there's some differences. There's some fun things that we can learn from them. Moving on, ODOT has begun the urban upgrades on Highway 99. So if you're wanting to just drive a leisurely drive down Highway 99 from Woodson Bridge to the connector, be prepared to be delayed. They're going to start cutting the concrete and asphalt. If they didn't do it today, they're going to do that tomorrow and get started on the storm drain. So expect delays there. The middle section of the road will be taken out, and people will be driving on the two sides for a while. So keep an eye out there. They will also later this fall, late this fall, they'll be working on the connector bridge as well. So they'll be replacing the deck or repairing the deck and resurfacing that, doing some concrete work and guardrail work and everything there too. So that whole section of 99 and connector may be a little bit treacherous for traffic if you're in a hurry. I do want to also then introduce to you our interim police chief, Jeff Groth. He's here with us tonight, and he'll be attending the council meetings for us as well. He'll be generally he's staying most of the weeks in Cottage Grove Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then leaves on Thursday afternoon or evening and goes back to Lapine. So we welcome him, and he's been meeting with staff and trying to keep everything moving and going well. He's been in touch with the sheriff as well as Eugene PD and others to help as we go through the process. So that's what I have.
Okay. We have no attorney tonight, so we are adjourned.